Chris Tyson situation could become a complete disaster for MrBeast's brand.
The SunnyV2 video is interesting. It's a very thought-provoking video.
However, it may also provide some unique benefits. So let's begin by going over the drama before explaining exactly how this will impact the MrBeast channel.
And I think, in my humble opinion, that the hate towards it might be a little over the top. Now, I can understand the hate for it. He doesn't, SunnyV2 that is, doesn't exactly make the best impression when he puts out the video, titles it, and runs the certain words the way he does, alright? I can understand why that would get some people angry.
In mid-2022, fans began to notice that Chris Tyson was changing. In the early days, he represented the quintessential southern gun and truck-loving dude, yet beginning in March 2022, Chris began to display increasingly feminine traits.
When he calls Chris, or when he calls the Chris situation a nightmare for MrBeast, he's saying it in terms of the situation MrBeast is put into. Essentially, no matter what decision MrBeast chooses to take, what course of action, he's going to lose in a sense either way.
Never express their true feelings and may rather simply click on fewer MrBeast videos. If this is the case, Jimmy has no option but to accept this fate, as removing Chris from the videos in any kind of way could create an even more severe media firestorm. The only clean solution, should things go south, might be for Chris to resign himself, and even then rumors and bad press will be unavoidable. Whether it be arrogance or ignorance, Chris seems oblivious to how this whole thing might impact Jimmy, forgetting that he achieved his current level of success by avoiding this exact type of drama.
There's no win scenario for MrBeast. So what SunnyV2 is trying to point out is that this is going to be a nightmare situation for MrBeast because of the situation rather than the individual human being. While when it comes to the individual human being, even in the video, it seems like they're willing to give Chris the benefit of the doubt on certain things. Doesn't really necessarily put out the vibes that he hates this person or that he dislikes his identity or hates him for being, you know, what he is now or what he's decided to transition into. Now, the whole invasive scenario or whatever, speculating on the marriage of whatever have you in regards to Chris, the speculation isn't really done that much. It's briefly highlighted as an event that happened throughout the course of this whole transition and rebranding or whatever you want to call it. It's one of those things where you want to mention it to add as much context as possible.
Now, this was pretty ridiculous, as Karl isn't even that feminine, and Chris had come out as bisexual years before he and Karl had even met. The true catalyst for Chris Tyson's feminization instead seemed to have come from his marriage. In January 2022, Chris would post a photo with his wife to his Instagram, yet after this, the family photo stopped altogether. Fans also noticed that he'd removed his wedding ring, with the ring's absence correlating perfectly with the very first post in which he'd painted his nails. Chris confirmed the split in a post from March 2023 reading, "For a little over a year now, me and Katie have been separated," with this also confirming that Chris's transformation began as soon as his marriage came to an end.
To leave it out would leave out context, and seeing as how Chris decided to use his own son in a certain couple Twitter posts saying that he, in a way, did this for his son rather than just himself. Which that in itself is kind of fucked up, but whatever.
This is just more dog whistling that somehow trans and GNC folks aren't safe around kids. Tucker begs for me to come back when I leave for like 2 days to film. He is so loved and happy. Kids aren't born with hate, it's taught by people like you, and my child will only know love. I know I'm going to be a great parent, and so is every other person who puts the love of their child before everything. I made this decision because I wanted to show up as my best and happiest self for him. In a way, this was for Tucker.
We'll have a 50-50 split on that. Regardless, it doesn't really seem like SunnyV2 is that villain that everybody's trying to paint him out to be. I don't think he did anything necessarily wrong with this video. I think to certain people, he might have done something wrong, but I do think that those certain people might be a little full of shit. If you're in a business like YouTube, if you're in this entertainment industry, you know how fucked up things can be, and you either participated in them or you let those things just blindly go. For example, if you are friends or associates or anything of that sort with Killer Keemstar, then I kind of question your moral high ground just because you're willing to associate with a guy that's not only just done things that SunnyV2 has done, but gone way over the top, right? He's been a piece of shit for the majority of his career. So if you guys can overlook that, surely you can overlook SunnyV2's current video take, which doesn't even cross boundaries that a Killer Keemstar in 2016 would cross. I'm just saying, the people that are acting overly righteous over this stuff really need to think about, you know, how obvious they make it that they're full of shit. While other people that I know have good intentions and a good heart behind them and they get offended by this, I can see their perspective, but I will respectfully disagree. I do not think this person did anything wrong. I do think he used certain words that would make people think that he's transphobic. He used certain words that would make or irk people, rub them the wrong way, thus providing an emotional reaction and backlash. I think other people, though, that just straight up hate him, use this as a way to, you know, make him look worse than he already is. As typical fashion on the internet, this happens to legitimately anybody. It's a typical method of propaganda and bullshit that pretty much every entertainer has to deal with at some point. It's something that you learn over time and being on this YouTube sphere. Not a big deal. They'll recover. 20,000 subs lost to a 1 million channel isn't really that big of a deal. Especially because, well, they say the internet never forgets, but in reality, the internet kind of doesn't forget, but they just lose interest. Like, they move on to the next gotcha, the next controversy, or the next thing they care about. It's very, very surface level. I'm not going to pay attention to detail kind of shit, because I have too much shit happening in my real life that I can't be bothered to give a fuck that much or invest this much time into it. So all in all, the SunnyV2 thing will pretty much die down. It will pass. I don't think he overstepped any boundaries by making the video, especially because I watched the entire thing, was able to grasp that he's basically saying that the situation, the scenario that MrBeast is put it is the actual nightmare, because it kind of is. I mean, I would call a situation where I was going to be the bad guy if I accepted my friend or if I just tried to appease to my fans a nightmare scenario, because, I mean, I'm the bad guy either way. What can I do? From what I see, again, surface level, I don't know SunnyV2 is a human being, but just from the surface level, I don't think he was trying to be hateful towards the idea of Chris deciding to transition. And even if he had a negative idea of it, why is that such a bad thing? Essentially, if he had his own critiques about a adult male, a 30-year-old man, or however old Chris is, an adult, let's just say an adult that was willing to have a child with a woman, deciding to make a life-changing decision that will not only impact him but the people around him, why aren't you allowed to critique him for that? I think it's fair game to be able to, at the very fucking least, critique him, especially after Chris blatantly uses his son as a way to scapegoat his transition, which is something you can say that it is. I mean, who the fuck says, I did this life-altering decision for myself, but if you think about it, guys, I really did it for my son. It's like, shut the fuck up, bro. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. Like, that's such a scapegoat and a bitch-made move. I just can't see. Like, it's a good thing that you cover everything else up with all that other sweet nothings and gibberish so that people can see, yeah, I don't really think this guy's authentic. I don't know if you could tell. But that's pretty much all I have for this video, guys. Those are my honest thoughts on the situation. No real hate. It's just that this Chris guy kind of doesn't rub me the authentic way. But, you know, who knows? It could just be a big misunderstanding. I don't think that SunnyV2 did anything wrong. I think the moral grandstanding is just that, moral grandstanding for the sake of looking better on the internet, which everybody could always use. It's all good. And I think some people just don't see anything really wrong with that. I give that authenticity to people like MrBeast, who seems like a stand-up kind of guy. But again, those are just my personal thoughts on the matter. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.